I'm about to board a flight to Paris, but this isn't a holiday. I'm going there to build something I believe a lot of stylists need right now, because I keep seeing talented barbers and stylists who are technically strong, fully capable and respected by their clients, but still invisible to the industry. They've got skill, ambition, and they know they're meant for more. So I'm flying to Paris to build the first step. It's called the GSB Blueprint Week One, the Paris release. Over the next few days, I'm going to show you why I'm building it, what it represents, and how and why the future of your career might just depend on learning how to become more than just good at what you do.
You see, there's a version of the hair industry that actually keeps people trapped. It tells stylists to keep working, keep posting, and keep getting better at doing hair. And eventually, one day, well, hopefully you get noticed. But that's not a strategy. That's what I call blind hope. And unfortunately, hope's not good enough when it comes to building a career, building a brand, and trying to achieve freedom in life. We see the stylists that I actually work with are not lazy. They're not looking for shortcuts, because most of them are actually working really hard, as it is, to be fair. The problem is their work's not being packaged correctly, positioned properly, and presented in a way that's going to open up doors. And that's what the GSB is for. Not just for doing better hair, but for becoming more visible, more recognisable, and more opportunity ready.
The point of this trip is not to make Paris look like a reward. The point of this is to show what becomes possible when your career is built with intention. The global stylist is not someone who just travels for content. A global stylist is someone whose name, skill, reputation and positioning can move beyond one salon, one town or one audience. And that's a shift I want more stylists to understand. You're not just building a column, you're building a name. Day 2 in Paris started in the lobby. Coffee, breakfast, laptop screen open, and student group calls with Brendan, Sadiq and Oliver. This is exactly why I want to document this trip properly, because when people think about becoming a global stylist, they think about the visible parts first. Flights, hotels, city, lifestyle. But the real shift isn't in the travel. The real shift is building a career, a name and a way of working that can move with you.
So Sunday morning here in Paris, 9 AM. I'm in the hotel lobby before breakfast, laptop's open, and I'm about to jump on a call with Brendan, Sadiq and Oliver. So we're talking Malta, Sweden and Faroe Islands. On a call prepping them before their big launch in India at Salon International Pro Beauty. And this is an important part to film, and I love catching these moments because it's exactly what I talk about when I talk about, building beyond the stylist chair. I'm not saying stylists should abandon the salon, abandon their chair or their clients. I'm not saying none of that matters, because it does. The chair matters, your craft matters, and your clients do matter ultimately. But if your entire career only works when you're standing in one place behind that chair, every hour, every week, then face it, your talent has no space to travel. It's this call here that matters. Not me being here in Paris, but me being able to sit in Paris, sit here right now and talk to stylists from all over the world and help them build their brand, build their direction, and ultimately move their mission forward. This is exactly why I built the GSB and why I'm building the Week One Blueprint Paris release.
On this call were 3 stylists at different stages, from different places, with different goals. Brendan, Sadiq, Oliver. And that's the whole point. The global stylist is not about creating one type of stylist. It's about helping each artist understand who they are, what they represent, where their visibility is weak, and what needs to happen next in their career to become bigger than their current environment.
So I've just finished a call with Oliver, Brendan and Savani. And honestly, this is exactly why the Blueprint Week One Paris release needs to exist. Because when I work with stylists on the full Global Stylist Blueprint mentorship, I can see the same pattern again and again. The talent's there, the ambition's there, the hunger's there. And what's usually missing is clarity. Clarity on who they are as an artist, clarity on how they're currently being perceived, clarity on what it is they actually want, and most importantly, clarity on what their next move should be. And without clarity, they either stay busy doing the same things, or they start chasing random opportunities that do not fit the bigger direction and the end vision. That is why the first week matters. Before somebody needs a stage, a brand deal, a bigger audience, or an international opportunity, they need to be able to answer one simple question. Who are you becoming in the industry?
The Paris release is built from that exact principle. It's not trying to solve someone's entire career in 7 days. That'd be dishonest. But it's designed to create the first serious shift. 7 days where you stop floating, 7 days where you stop guessing, 7 days where you look at your identity, your visibility, your positioning, and your direction with more honesty. Then you submit the work, I look at it, and that's the difference. You're not just downloading information, you're giving me something real to respond to.
You see, Brendan, Sadiq, and Oliver all represent something important. They're not the same stylists, they're not from the same place, and they don't have the same story. But they're all asking the bigger question: how do I take what I already have and make it travel further? How do I become more visible? How do I become more opportunity ready? And how do I stop being limited by my immediate surroundings? And that is the question every serious stylist eventually has to face.
This morning reminded me that the global stylist lifestyle is not about pretending life is always glamorous. It's about building a structure where your work, your thinking, and your influence are not trapped in one location. That is freedom. Not doing nothing, doing meaningful work from anywhere.
Student calls all done in the hotel lobby, and now into the city of Paris. Now, this part of the trip matters because Paris is not just the backdrop for the launch. Paris is the sole reason the launch has the feeling it has. You know, the first week of the Global Stylist Blueprint is about identity, visibility, and presentation. And there's not many cities in the world that truly understand identity, visibility, and presentation just like Paris does. So we're currently in traffic and I'm heading to the Louvre. Now, there's a reason why I wanted to go here whilst building the Paris release, because the Louvre to me isn't just a museum. It's proof that work can outlive the person who created it. And that's what a lot of stylists don't really think about. They sit there thinking about, you know, today's clients, today's content, today's appointments. And of course that does matter. But if you're serious about becoming more than just locally busy, you have to start thinking about what your work's building over time. Are you building appointments, or are you building a brand and a name? You know, the stylist who think about the next appointment will always feel trapped by their calendar. Whereas the stylist who thinks about identity, visibility, and legacy starts building something bigger than the day-to-day routine. And that's the mental shift behind the GSB. Not abandoning the work, but elevating what the work can actually become.
I
just arrived at the Louvre, and sitting here makes the whole reason for this release even more clearer. Because this place is built around one idea: work deserves to be seen properly. You know, art doesn't become powerful only because it exists. It becomes powerful because it's framed, presented, protected, studied, and placed in an environment where people understand its value. Stylists, you gotta hear this. Your work might be strong, but if it's not framed properly, presented properly, and connected to a clear identity, people are not gonna see the value of it at the level it should be. The haircut is the craft, but the way you frame yourself is what teaches the industry how to see you. There's a lesson here for every stylist. You know, if you took a masterpiece and left it leaning against the wall in a storage room, most people would walk straight past it. Same painting, same artist, same skill, but the context changes the perception. When that same piece of art is framed, lit, placed in the right room, given a story, protected by the institution, and is surrounded by people who understand its importance, suddenly the value becomes obvious. This is what positioning does. It doesn't fake your talent, it frames it. And that's where so many talented artists are losing. Their work's good, but the frame is weak. Their skills are there, but their story is unclear. Their ability is real, but the presentation is not matching the level they want to reach.
This is exactly why the Blueprint Week One had to begin with identity and visibility. Because before we start talking about stages, brand partnerships, global opportunities, or even the full mentorship program offer, we have to ask a more basic question. How are you currently being framed? You know, when someone lands on your page or your profile, what do they understand? When they see your work, what do they remember? You know, when they hear your name, what do they associate you with? And ultimately, if the answer's unclear, your next opportunity is already harder to earn.
This is what the GSB Blueprint Week One, the Paris release, is built to start solving. It's not the full transformation, and it's not pretending that 7 days is magically going to turn you into a global stylist. But 7 days is enough to expose the frame. It's enough to look into your identity. It's enough to look into your visibility. It's enough to look into the way your work is currently being positioned and perceived and presented. And it's enough to see whether or not your ambition and your public image are currently aligned. Once I can see that, I can give you an honest feedback on what the next move should be for you. And no, it isn't just another PDF for stylists to sit there and download. Mercy, this is the first gate for stylists who are ready to stop hiding behind their work and start building that frame that their talent actually deserves.
After the Louvre, I kept walking through the streets of Paris because the city teaches you without sitting in a classroom. The architecture teaches proportion, the fashion teaches identity, the cafes teach rhythm, the stores teach presentation, the streets teach atmosphere. And that's something I believe stylists need to understand. You can't become a global artist if the only thing you study is hair. Hair is the craft, but culture is what gives the craft meaning. One of the biggest mistakes stylists make is thinking their technical skills alone will separate them. But if everyone is posting cuts, colors, transformations, befores and afters, and client reactions, then skills start to blend in. The question now becomes, what do people feel when they see you? What world are you inviting them into? What do you represent? What is your taste level? What is your point of view? Why should the industry remember you and not just the haircut? That's the difference between being a stylist with content and becoming a stylist with culture. Coming to the end of the day, and I've just stopped for a quick drink because I want to capture this while it's still fresh. The more I've walked through Paris, the more obvious it becomes why this release needed to be built here. Paris forces you to think about taste. It forces you to think about image. It forces you to think about how things are presented. And that's exactly the first challenge for a stylist who wants more. Before you ask for bigger opportunities, you have to ask yourself whether or not you're presenting yourself like someone who's ready for them. Not perfectly, not falsely, but intentionally. You see, the enemy of the global stylist isn't just another stylist. It's not another educator, and it's not another academy. The enemy is the idea that talented stylists like yourself should just keep their head down, keep posting content, and one day you're going to get discovered. And I think that's what's kept millions of talented stylists like yourself invisible for so long. Don't get me wrong, working hard matters, having the skills matter, having the clients matter as well. But waiting, that's not a strategy. Hoping one day somebody discovers you, that's not a strategy either. Whilst we're on the topic, working hard, posting the same content as everyone else, following the trends, best believe me, that's not a strategy either. What you need is you need a frame, you need a signal, and you need direction. And that's why this exists. You know, the old way says, be good and wait. But the global stylist way says, be good and then build the signal. The old way says, your work should speak for itself. But the global stylist way says, your work needs a frame so the right people can understand it. The old way says, stay local, stay safe, stay busy. Whereas the global stylist way says, build a name that can travel just like this. And that is the shift. And this first week is where your shift begins. Chance.
Let me explain exactly what the Paris release is. The GSB Week One Paris release is a £75 entry point into the Global Stylist Blueprint. It's a 28-page PDF covering the first week of the GSB process. Inside, there's 7 daily tasks built around the core principles of the blueprint I've created. Each task is designed to make you look at your career, your identity, your visibility, and your positioning more seriously. And at the end of the 7 days, you submit your work. Then within 72 hours, you get a one-to-one session with me where I give you direct feedback and review everything you've done and map out what your next moves should be. This isn't just information, it's action, submission, feedback, and direction. And yes, for some people, this may become the first step into the full Global Stylist Blueprint mentorship. But I don't want people just joining onto the full mentorship blindly. I want to see how you think. I want to see how you move. And most importantly, I want to see whether or not you're serious enough to complete the first 7 days of this process.
If there's one thing I want stylists to feel from watching this, is it's not jealousy, it's not fantasy, it's possibility. The possibility that your career can have more range. The possibility that your talent can help you travel further. The possibility that your work can open up rooms for you into rooms that you've never stepped foot into yet. But possibility alone isn't enough. Possibility needs structure. And that's what Blueprint Week One Paris release gives you. So if you're watching this right now and you know your current visibility doesn't match your ability, this is the question I want you to sit with. Are you actually invisible? Or have you just not built the frame yet? Because there's a big difference. Some stylists are not being ignored because they're not good enough. They're being overlooked because their identity is unclear. Their content is inconsistent. Their positioning is weak, and the industry has not been given a reason to remember them. That can change though, not by waiting, but by building. So after walking through Paris and spending a few days here, the idea became even clearer to me. The Paris release isn't just named after the city because I filmed it here. It carries the lessons of this city, the lessons that presentation matters, identity matters, framing matters, culture matters, visibility matters. And when a stylist starts to understand that, they stop waiting to be discovered and start becoming impossible to ignore. Heading back now, and this is where inspiration turns into the work. And that's one thing I want stylists to really understand. Inspiration is only useful if it becomes action. Paris gave me the feeling, the Louvre gave me the metaphor, but the blueprint has to give you the task. And that's what I'm finishing here. 7 days, 7 tasks, 1 serious first step. The Paris release is not here to make you feel inspired for an hour, it's here to make you move. Today confirmed why I chose Paris. Because this city understands something every ambitious stylist needs to learn. Great work deserves a great frame. And if your talent deserves a bigger stage, then it's time to start building the frame around it. Remember, your talent is the artwork, your brand is the frame. Global Stylist Blueprint Week One Paris release out this Friday, 9 AM.